ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار وبعد. Custody of children is called in Arabic Hidanah. Hidanah comes from the word Hidan, and Hidan means the lap of the person who will take care of the child. Okay, so usually it is the mother who keeps the child in her Hidan, in her lap, in her care, and therefore takes care of him, protects him, and educates him. The subject of Hidanah or custody doesn't come up normally in Islam unless there is a difference which results from divorce between the wife's side and the husband's side. So normally, because women are more knowledgeable about how to educate the children and how to take care of them, and they have more mercy and concern about the children than the men, that because of this, women have been given more right to the custody of the child than the father. However, because the father cares more about, because he is more involved normally with the worldly affairs and the society with other men and so on, so he knows more about people, about the other men, about financial dealings and so on. So in matters which deal with the finances of the child and in terms of marrying the daughter, for example, the father is given the priority. He is the one who has the upper hand or the right to the wilaya, to be the wali, in case of deciding for marriage or for what to do with the wealth of the children and so on. Hidanah or custody is a right, of course, for the children, because the child needs to be taken care of, and therefore the person who has the right to it is obliged to do it. Okay, so it's not like an option, which means that if the woman has the right and is capable of taking custody of the child, and especially if there is no other option to replace her, then she is obliged to take care of the custody of the child. For a woman to be given the right, or for a person in general to be the custodian or the hadin of the child, there are certain conditions that need to be fulfilled, and these are discussed in Zad al-Ma'ad by Ibn al-Qayyim in volume 5, toward the end of volume 5. So some of these are that the Hadin, the one who takes custody of the child, should be a Muslim. He cannot be, or she cannot be, a kafir, because this person, the custodian of the child, the caretaker of the child, will be doing a substantial portion of bringing up the child, of educating him. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, that every child is born according to fitrah, according to the pure, clean nature of Islam, and then his parents will change him to a Jewish or a Christian or something else. So if his parents are Jews or Christian or non-Muslims, any other religion, then they are likely to change the child. And therefore this is a requirement, that the one who takes custody of the child should be a Muslim. In addition to that, Allah Azza wa Jal prohibited the wilayah, the power of the kuffar over the believers, as He said, وَلَنْ يَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ الْكَافِرِينَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ سَبِيلًا, and Allah will not make a way for the kafirin, for the kuffar, over the believers. If only one of the two parents is a Muslim, then the child goes with the one who is a Muslim. The second condition is that the woman should not be married, because we'll be coming to this in more detail inshallah soon. The Prophet ﷺ told a woman, you have more right to it as long as you do not marry. And also, well, we'll be discussing this inshallah very briefly, so I don't have to dwell on it. The third requirement is al-aql, that is reason, that the person who takes care of the child should have reason, should be a sane person, not an insane or a madman or woman. And then the fourth condition is attaining puberty. So nobody can be the custodian or be in custody of another person if that first person is below the age of puberty, like 12 or 11 or 13 and so on. And then another condition is ability to take care of the child, which is being taken care of or given into the care of someone. And by taking care means by different means, not only by the knowledge of Islam but also by other ways. So if a person is blind, then she is not given custody of the child. Or if she has a contagious disease, or she is not able to move because she is paralyzed or something. Well, this is of course all of this assuming that she is the only one in their house and she doesn't have helpers, something like that. Then in that case she cannot have custody of the little child who needs her care and her support and her protection and so on. And then one more condition that the scholars usually give is justice, adala, adl, that the person should be adl, which means a just Muslim. That is that the person should not be a fasiq, a sinful person. Now, some scholars challenge this requirement, this condition, because they say that if you set a condition like this, then most of the children will not have people who will take care of them or will be their hadin, because most people are not udul. And this is something that Ibn al-Qayyim mentions, And he says that even if a person is fasiq, then sometimes he is or she is concerned about their children, and they try to protect them from anything that might harm them, and because of the natural concern that is in the heart of the father or the mother. Even if they drink alcohol or do things that are considered, actions of fisq, of the fusaq, of the very sinful people, still they would be concerned about their children. Now, this statement is not in general totally true, because we know that sometimes when a person drinks alcohol, for example, he becomes completely unaware of what he does, and sometimes he would even try to sleep with his daughter. What? Yeah, and they do other things, as they say in the Bible that they claim that the daughters of the Prophet Lut alayhi salam, they made him drink alcohol so that he wouldn't know what he was doing, and then they enticed him to sleep with them so that they would carry children from him, which is a lie, of course, about Lut sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But I mean, the person who drinks alcohol, he becomes absent from his mind. He loses his mind, and he can do everything that is not in line with his being the wali, or the hadin, the custodian, the caretaker of the child. So if a person is known to be fasiq like that, then he loses his right to the children, and it goes to the other parent who is better than him in some of these qualities. Or if the other parent is not has similar description, then it goes to the next of kin, and then the next of kin, and so on, and then eventually it may even go to the ruler, the Muslim ruler, who will assign somebody else to take care of the child, as they do here in the kuffar governments, when they decide based on certain criteria that is not necessarily in line with Islam, but they decide that the parents are not capable of taking care of the child, they would take him from them and give him to those who can take better care of him. So the idea is the same, even though the details are, of course, different in Islam. The seventh condition that people give is freedom, that the hadin must be free, and that a slave cannot be, a hadin cannot take care of the child. But this condition is challenged. In one case, the Prophet ﷺ said, this hadith is da'if, when people were trying to separate a mother from her child who were among the sabi, among the prisoners of war. He said, do not do that, do not make a mother lose her child. But there is a hadith which is Hasan, which has a similar meaning. He says, whoever separates between a mother and her child, Allah will separate between him and his beloved ones on the day of judgment. So this hadith is in Musnad Ahmad and Tirmidhi, Darimi, etc. So from this hadith, a woman, even if she, and of course, I mean, this doesn't apply in our time. It used to apply at old times when there were slaves, prisoners of wars, things like that. So in that case, the mother, even if she is a slave woman, she should still be able and given the chance to be the caretaker of her child. Okay, so these are the most basic things regarding Hidanah. Now, one issue that is not very basic, but it comes up, and I think it is one of the questions that are ready to be asked, is regarding traveling with the little one. if the Hadin wants to travel with the child. So Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, the scholars actually differ a lot about this. If you read the arguments from the different scholars, you find that they have given 3, 4, 5 different opinions, and most of them do not have an evidence for what they say. It is just some kind of opinion based on general principles, and sometimes based on just certain inclinations. Assalamu alaikum. The first thing is the opinions given here are from Ahmad, from Malik Shafi'i, from Shuraih. And Shuraih, you know, he was one of the famous judges. Many of the judges who came afterwards learned from his judgments in various cases, because he was such a very learned and at the same time very wise and just judge. So people who came later referred to his judgments in various issues of family and finances and so on. Something that I wanted actually, by the way, to emphasize is that the matters of custody, and I'll be emphasizing this a little later inshallah more, the matters of custody are matters of judgment and not matters of precise text, that you have an exact text for every case which says 1 + 1 = 2, that's it. But there are cases which are very unclear, and it would be left largely to the knowledge and taqwa of the person who is making judgment in order to know what to do in certain cases. But anyway, there are, as I was saying, in this particular issue, regarding this particular issue of traveling, there are 3 or 4 different opinions of the scholars. Some of them reported from Ahmad, then others from Malik and Shafi'i and Shuraih, others from Abu Hanifa, and others. So some of them, one thing that seems to be of a point of agreement among them is that if the travel was done, if the travel is something temporary, like the mother has to travel with the child to some place, or the father, if he is the custodian, the Hadin, has to travel with the child a certain distance for a few days or a couple of weeks or something like that, then the most appropriate opinion, Allahu Alam, of the different ones is that they can do that. There is nothing wrong in that, as long as this travel does not affect the welfare of the child itself, because their custody is supposed to be something that is meant to serve as a service to the child. And if the child is not affected by that, the concern is not the parents, the other parent or anybody like that. The concern is the child himself. If he's not affected emotionally or educationally or health-wise, which is very important here, then there's nothing wrong by one of the parents traveling with him for a certain distance. Now, if one of the parents wants to move with the child from one place, from one town to another, then, as I was saying earlier, then a point that something that seems to be an agreement among the scholars is that if the intention of such a move is to hurt the feelings of the other parent, then this is prohibited. And if it is proven to be the case, then the parent who's trying to do it loses the right to the child. So suppose, for example, a child is given the a mother is given the custody of a child, and then she says, I want to take him to another town just to hurt the feeling of my ex-husband, then there's no reason for her but just to keep the child away from him. Then in that case, she loses the right to the child. You mean if after she decides to move, somebody warned her and she changed her mind? Yeah, then inshallah in that case that'll be forgiven. But if she did move and the intention of the move was that, then she loses the custody and the child goes back to the other parent. Let me read, probably because this will give you some idea of how the scholars differ about this. For example, it says traveling with the child, especially if it is still nursing baby, will cause a harm to him, and therefore it should be avoided. And the person who is not traveling on the move, that is, has more right to keep the child during that period of travel. Whether that is this is something that Ibn al-Qayyim is reporting. He says whether that travel was for the purpose of Hajj or otherwise, or whether the travel as they used to be in the old times causes the woman to or the man to travel along a dangerous road. So the one who is not traveling will have more right to the child. But if the road is safe, then there are two opinions, and both of them have been stated from Ahmad. One of them is that the custody goes to the father because he would be able to bring up the child and educate him. And this is also the one of the statements from Malik and Shafi'i, and was judged by Shuraih. The second is that the mother has more right. And then there is another saying which says that if the one who's moving were the father, then the mother has more right. And if it were the mother who's moving, that is traveling, then if she moves to the country or to the town where the marriage was originally performed, the nikah was performed, then she has more right. But if she goes to somewhere else, then the father has more right. And this is the opinion of the Hanafis. And there is another opinion from the Hanafis which says that if she moves to from a city to a village, then the father has more right. And if it was from one town to another town, city, that is, then the father has more right. And the author here, he says, as you see, all of these opinions do not have a dalil. Actually, not the opinion, the author, the Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. He says, all of these opinions do not have a dalil to which the heart would be inclined. So the correct thing is to observe the situation and make sure that what is judged is what is best for the child, and whether it is to stay in the place where he was originally, or to move with whoever is moving. As long as I mentioned earlier, as long as the intention of the move is not to harm the other partner or the other ex-spouse by such a move. So again, it comes back to really judging the situation, because moves will vary from one case to another. Sometimes a mother will move and her intention to go to a place where she can provide better Islamic education for the child, so the child will go with her. And in some cases the mother will move to a place where there is more fisq in the area, there is more disobedience to Allah. So in that case, if she insists to go there, then the child stays with the father, and so on. And this is, as I said, this is to be you cannot have a general rule. This has to be judged by a person who is capable of judging, like a Muslim judge or a very knowledgeable imam or things like that, people like that. And it has to be dealt with on individual case basis. You cannot have a general rule, say that this is general rule always. Whenever a mother moves, she loses the right, or whenever she moves, she retains the right. You cannot have such a rule. Okay. One of the scholars of the Hanbali madhab, which is the book Umdat al-Ahkam, he says the one who has most right to the child is his mother, then her mothers, even if they go up, no matter how high they go, which means her mother and the mother of her mother and so on. Then the father, then his mothers, then the grandfather, then his mothers, then the sister from both sides of the father, that is. Then the sister from the father's side, then the sister from the mother's side, then the aunt, then the from the mother's side, then the aunt from the father's side, then the next closest and the closest, etc. And so on. So as you see, I mean, even this doesn't have a strong support in all the details that he gave. Some of what he said has support from the Sunnah, as we will see. One question that would arise in regard to Hidanah is what is to be paid to the person. Like the child is with the mother. Is the father required to pay for the Hidanah? And the answer is yes. As is stated, you can find it in Fiqh Sunnah. There's discussion of this. He says that the pay for the Hidanah is, or for the custody of the children, is similar to that of nursing. The mother does not take any of it as long as she is a wife, or when she is in her iddah, because she is already being paid for something else, or she is being paid nafaqah when she is in her iddah. When she is a wife, of course, she is being supported by her husband. But if but after divorce, and after each one lives separately, then just as the man has to pay the woman to nurse his child, he also has to pay her for the custody of his child. No. For the children, it's like he's hiring somebody. So, like he's hiring someone to nurse his child, like they used to do in the old times when women used to suckle the children. So sometimes a woman will be weak, or she doesn't want to do that, and there were professional women who would do that, as Halima, who suckled the Prophet ﷺ in his childhood. So if suppose he wants to hire a woman to do that, then he has to pay her. Right. Yeah. No, but he has, even I'm saying it's the same whether she's suckling or she is taking care of the child. He has to pay for the living of the child, for the rental of his place if she doesn't own a house, and so on. What he says here, he says the cost for Hidanah, for the custody, for taking care of the child, is on the father. He is required to pay for the rental of the dwelling place, or for preparing it, if the mother doesn't have a place that she owns where she can take care of the child. And this is this is contrary to the personal needs of the child, of food and clothing and bedding and medicine and other basic needs that cannot be lived without. Yeah, we'll get to this inshallah right now, but let's complete discussing this. So he says, he brings the ayah here after the completion of the iddah. He says, فَأَنْفِقُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ حَتَّى يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ, which means after divorce, then give nafaqah, support to the women until they deliver. فَأَنْ أَرْضَانَ لَكُمْ, and then if they nurse for you, that is nurse your children, then فَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ, give them their pay for that. وَأْتَمِرُوا بَيْنَكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ, and then decide on these matters among yourselves in a good way. That is, do not give her less than what she deserves, or she cannot ask for too much, and so on. So be fair in dealing with each other. So he says the mother, if a woman is other than the mother doing, that is the Hidanah, then nursing the child or taking care of the child. Suppose you send the child to a nursing school, nursery, then you have to pay for that. And if the woman is doing it, then she must be paid for that. Like when you hire a woman to nurse the child, to suckle the child. And as the father is required to pay for suckling, he is required to pay for the Hidanah, for the custody of the child. In addition, not contrary here, and that's the correct translation, in addition to the basic needs of the child like food and dress and bedding and medication and so on, which he cannot live without. So this is required for the father to pay from the time that the woman who is doing the Hidanah, whether it's his wife or any other woman, from the time that she starts to do it. And it would be a dain, a debt on the father that will not be dropped from him unless he pays it off or he is forgiven. Okay? That's clear, which means that even if he cannot afford it, he says, I can't afford it, you take care of the children, I have no money to do that for you, since he is the person who is actually responsible for the children, even though they are in the custody of the mother, then he has to pay for that. And if he can't afford it, this is considered as a debt that he has to pay it off at some point. And unless the mother says, okay, I forgive you, you do not have to pay me anything. Now, here is about the question of marriage. When the woman marries, a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and she said, "O Allah's Messenger, this is my child. My belly or my womb has been a container for it. That is, it was in my womb, within my body. وَثَدِي لَهُ ثِقَاء, and my breast was a source of drink for him. وَحِجْرِي لَهُ حِوَاء, and my lap was a protection for him, like a little house or something. وَإِنَّ أَبَاهُ طَلَّقَنِي, and his father has divorced me, and he wants to take him from me." So the Prophet ﷺ told her, أَنْتِ أَحَقُّ بِهِ مَا لَمْ تَنْكِحِي أو تُنْكَحِي, which means you have more right to it unless you marry. Okay. Now, the scholars have differed in opinion concerning the interpretation of this hadith. And in Subul al-Salam by al-San'ani, there is a good interpretation based on the looking at all what the other scholars say, he says this hadith indicates that if the woman gets married, then she loses the right to the custody. And this is what the majority of the scholars have held as opinion. That's the opinion of the majority of the scholars. Now, some scholars have taken the hadith or the reports, or have brought up some reports that contradict this, like Ibn Hazm, for example. They said that Anas bin Malik radiallahu anh used to live with his mother when she was married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she did not go to the family of the father. And the same for Salama. She married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wait a minute, Anas bin Malik used to serve the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was, and he used to live with his mother, but she was not married, of course, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Salama was married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and her child remained with her during her marriage. And also the daughter of Hamza radiallahu anh, as we will hear in a little bit, the Prophet ﷺ decided or judged that she stays with her aunt, with her mother's sister, even though she was married. So he says, San'ani, he says after bringing this, he says, what has been brought up, that these reports cannot be taken as an evidence except if there is a request to change the custody, and there is a difference, there is a conflict. But if there is no conflict, then the married mother can still take custody, take care of her child. And in all these reports, there is no difference or conflict reported. So they cannot be used as an evidence for what they have been brought for. So in other words, what we understand from this is that the mother has the right to the child, to take care of it, because she is more capable, more normally. We are saying, in general case, the mother knows better how to deal with the children than the father. She has more time, more knowledge, more concern, more kindness, and so on. Assuming, an average, normal woman than the father. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this. So she has the right to the custody of the child while it is young. It needs her care. And if she gets married, then she doesn't lose this right. But from what should be understood from the hadith is that in that case, if there is a conflict, she might lose the right. Which means, if the father says, okay, the mother is now married, and some of the scholars actually give this as an explanation of why it is like this. Suppose that the father comes and says, I want my child now because the mother is married to a different man and she has more priorities. My child is not her priority anymore because the new husband fulfill her right of custody. Therefore, I want to take him back. In that case, there is a conflict, and the conflict should be resolved by the judge. But otherwise, normally in all these cases that we were mentioned about Anas and Salama and her child Salama, and also the daughter of Hamza, there was no conflict. Actually, in the case of the daughter of Hamza, there was a conflict that the Prophet ﷺ resolved, as we will see. But in the other two cases, there was no conflict, and therefore we cannot say that automatically the woman loses the right totally and the child has to go to the father in that case. But we say that the mother does not have as much right as before, and she may lose her right from that hadith. Which means, so the hadith says you have more right to the child unless you remarry. If you remarry, then you do not have the highest right anymore, but then this has to be resolved based. If the father comes and asks for the child, then in that case there is a conflict and it has to be resolved by the judge. The report about the daughter of Hamza, this happened during the Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, when the Prophet ﷺ was about to enter Mecca, and he wanted to, after he was about to leave it, then the daughter of Hamza radiallahu anh, and you probably remember that Hamza was the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Hamza, and he died as a shaheed in one of the battles, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he said he is Sayyid al-Shuhada in the battle of Uhud. He is the master of the Shuhada, Hamza. So anyway, the daughter of Hamza came running to the Prophet ﷺ, and she was saying, Ya Am, my uncle, which means take me with you. So Ali radiallahu anh took her hand, and he said to his wife, who is the Prophet's daughter, he said, take your cousin. Now, Ibnata Ammiki. Now, as you know, as we said, Hamza is the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. He is his father's brother, and therefore he is also the uncle of Fatima, who is the wife of Ali. He is the uncle of her father, the Prophet ﷺ. So I say, take your cousin, the daughter of your uncle, that is. So then there was a conflict. Ali radiallahu anhu wanted to take her, and Zayd wanted to take her, and Ja'far, who is the brother of Ali, wanted to take her as well. So Ali said, I am the one who got her first. I am the one who took her first, and she is my cousin. Now Ali also is the cousin of Hamza, because Ali is the son of Abu Talib, and Abu Talib is the brother of Hamza. So he is her direct cousin. So he said, she is my cousin, and I took her first. And Ja'far then said, she is my cousin too, and her khala, which means her wife's her mother's sister, her aunt, is under me, which means she is my wife. I am married to her aunt, to her sister, mother's sister. Zayd said, she is my brother's sister. He said, she is my brother's sister. I'm not sure how that is. Probably they nursed together, because this is Zayd bin Haritha, and he was not the brother, of course, the blood brother of Hamza, but probably he nursed with him from the same woman. So he said, she is my niece. She is my brother's daughter. So the Prophet ﷺ judged that she goes with her aunt, and he said, al-khalatu bi-manzilati al-umm. This is one important hadith in this regard. He said the aunt from the mother's side, that is in the same position as the mother. And he said to Ali, you are from me and I am from you. That is, you are part of me, you are like, one of my family, and I am one of you. وقال لجعفر, and he said to Ja'far, أشبهت خلقي وخلقي. He said to Ja'far, you look like me in your look and in your build and in your manners. And then he said to Zayd, you are our brother and our mawla. Mawla is was used to be said for the person who was a slave and then they freed him. So he becomes like a member of the family, or a very close one to the family. And he said to Ali, can't you marry the daughter of Hamza? He said, she is my sister, my niece, ibnat akhi min al-rada'a. She is the daughter of my brother from suckling, which means no, I cannot. So it's not clear to me that this was an invitation, or that he was inquiring from him to see that, to tell him of another reason why he cannot have her. But because we know that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited, on another occasion, he prohibited Ali to marry a woman who, in addition to being married to his daughter Fatima. Anyways, from this hadith, what we learn is that the Prophet ﷺ decided and judged that the girl goes to her aunt, not even to her mother, but to her aunt who was married. So if she allowed her to go to a married aunt, of course, I mean, a married mother would be more worthy of having her. And so this depends on the situation of the... So it doesn't mean from this, I mean, this is used now to say that it doesn't mean from the other hadith that definitely the mother absolutely loses the right if she marries and she cannot have the child. All what it meant is that in that case her right to the child can be disputed. So in another report of this hadith he says, as for the girl, I judged that it goes to Ja'far, so she would be with her aunt from the mother's side, and the aunt is a mother. Okay, now I'm almost finished with well, not quite. In Subul Salam he says that this hadith gives a dalil, an evidence that the aunt can have or confirm the Hidanah, the custody for the aunt, and that she is like the mother. And it shows that the Hidanah of the woman who is married, this woman who is the aunt in this case from the mother's side, is more prior than that of men who are closer to her from the father's side. Because, you know, usually some scholars say that the father and his family from his side, like his brother, his uncle and so on, they have more right than the mother in such cases. But he's proving that no, even though one of the men said I am her cousin and the other says I am her uncle and so on, etc., or my he did not give them the girl, and he only gave it gave her to her aunt from the mother's side. Okay, and then he says the right, he says what I explained earlier, that the reason that people usually say that a woman or what is the hadith indicates that a woman may lose her right to the child by marriage is because she has now another priority, which is her husband. She has to obey him. But if it is understood and believed that the man to whom the woman gets married, is willing to take care of the child and to have his wife, I mean, take care of her in a proper way, then that's fine. Then in that case, she can stay with her. Okay. Now, what if the child grows to a certain age that he can distinguish between the father and the mother? There is a hadith in this regard reported by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that a woman came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she said, my husband, which means my ex-husband, wants to take my child from me. So he said, draw lots, that is, let's draw lots and see who will take it. So the husband said, who can have more right to my child than me? So the Prophet ﷺ said, this is your father and this is your mother, so take the hand of whichever you want. So he took the hand of the mother and she took him, which means that at this age, when the child could distinguish between the father and the mother and decide where to go, then he's given the choice whether to go with the mother or the father. Now there is some discussion from the scholars about this. The summary of it is that this is in situations, even though this is true in general, because of this hadith, I mean the clear statement of the hadith, but you have to take into consideration that the children sometimes, or I mean the choice would be given. This hadith, from this hadith, we should understand that drawing lots or throwing a coin and see which one will get the child would be done, or allowing the child to choose which one of the two parents to go with after he can discern, is when the parents are of equal status. That is, they are both good Muslims, both of them are capable of taking care of the child, both of them seem to care about him, and so on. But if there is quite a difference between the two, then the child would go with the better of the two parents. One of the one story that is mentioned by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah in this regard explains why this is so. He says their two parents had conflict. They came and differed in front of one of the rulers or the judges about their child, and each one wanted him, so he gave him the choice, and he selected to go with the father. So the mother said, okay, but first ask him why he selected to go with the father. So he asked him, and he said, the child said, my mother wants to send me every day to the Kuttab. Kuttab is like the school where they used to teach them Qur'an all day long, and the teacher there hits me, that is, he forces me to learn, but my father lets me play with the boys in the street. So the ruler at that point changed his judgment, and he said to the mother, you have more right to it. So he gave the child to the mother. And there's something similar statement by San'ani in Subul al-Salam, in which he says that usually the children do not know what is good for them. They like the parent who gives them more toys, who gives them more chance to have fun and so on. So they wouldn't know which is better, and therefore their ideas or their inclinations should not be the basis for what they go, unless the parents are known to be of equal position or knowledge and status and so on. But and in that case you can draw lots or give the choice and so on. Otherwise the child has to be judged to go to the parent who is more capable and worthy of taking care of it. So that's all what I have in this regard. Or actually there's one more point that I need to mention, which is that I think I mentioned earlier that if there are two parents, one of them is Muslim and one of them is not, then the child goes with the Muslim. So that's all the introduction that I wanted to give, and actually it took most of the hour. So now inshallah, if you have further questions on the subject, I'll try to answer them. For the child, not for the ex-wife. Right. So what? Say, I couldn't hear you right. Well, say it again. Yeah. Right. Yeah, correct. Which portion? The last portion? Well, Allahu Alam, I mean, it means that he should not لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك, which means that the mother should not be harmed by her child, which means it should not be taken away from her and cause her to have a hard feeling of the pain and to be separated from her child. And the same for the father, Allahu Alam. But I mean, this is the apparent meaning. I'm not prepared to give more detailed tafsir of this ayah unless I go to the books of tafsir in this regard. You mean at what time we can say that the nursing has been done, has been completed? Right. It's supposed to be in a weaning stage, Allahu Alam. A child is weaned, Allahu Alam. I mean, we have to go to the definition in the words, from the words of the scholars. But my understanding now is that if the mother's milk stops to be its major nourishment, then he's weaned. But sometimes during the weaning stages he still cannot be left. I mean, he wouldn't eat anything else unless at certain times he can suckle from the mother. So in that case, he's probably still in a weaning period, which shouldn't be extended forever. I mean, this is usually like a few weeks or so. But before that, he is. I mean, he's clearly there are times where he is clearly basically his basic source of nourishment comes from the mother's food, and then there are cases where his basic mother's food become like a dessert for the child, and his major nourishment comes from other than the mother's milk. So Allahu Alam, yes. I didn't quite understand the question, but right. Yeah, because the child has a share in using all of these things. So, and this is normally the responsibility of the father. So he must, some of the money has to go to that, to all of those things. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's just for the child. Think of the child as being put with a professional person to take care of it. Then he has to pay her only for the needs of his child, not for her, extra personal needs. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Okay, this has to be decided by someone, someone like a judge ahead of time, Allahu Alam, so that before, it's not like every month she says, now this month she sends him bills of how much she spent for the child. But they decide that every month he will pay her so much money, depends on what is anticipated to be the needs of the child, from food and clothing and things like that. And she cannot exceed it by going, and if she wants to exceed it by buying fancy clothing or useless stuff for the child, then it's up to her, but it is not an obligation on the father. So she has to remain with the limits. Of course, there would be exceptions, like, for example, there is a sudden case of illness where the child had to be taken to the emergency room, or there were some high medical bills that he has to pay for, then that's something exceptional that can be written down in the agreement. But the agreement should give specific terms or directions as to how much is to be paid, and then the rest, the extra, should be the responsibility of the mother. Yeah, otherwise, the mother would, everybody could, like any other thing, why Allah Azza wa Jal commanded us to, if we have a contract, a tijara, a trade between us, to write it down, because people usually forget, or they, whether intentionally or unintentionally, they forget some of the terms, and then they try to violate them, and this will cause problems and hard feeling, and they have to go to and fight and dispute what have taken place. So the best thing is to settle this ahead of time, before it takes place, before the problem arises. Allahu. Depends. If this is done in the by a Muslim judge, and he decides that the woman has to release the child to the father, then definitely, if she insists and runs away with the child or something like that, then yeah, she loses the alimony, or whatever they call it. Is that what they call it in the alimony, I think. Alimony, yeah. Yeah, that'll be best also, and that should be done like the agreeing on other terms, because normally the father would have or should have the chance to access the child whenever he wants. Or the mother, in case the father is not is the Hadin, or the custodian of the child. So So either one of the spouses should normally have access to the child. However, this would turn out to be very inconvenient in some cases. I mean, you cannot expect the husband to come at 3 in the morning and say, I want to see my child, and the mother be willing to get dressed and ready and let him in and so on, or bring a mahram to sit with her or something like that. So there definitely are some consideration to be taken, and therefore the best thing is to write an agreement. But the agreement has to be reasonable, from what you read earlier from the ayah of the Qur'an and Surah Al-Baqarah. لا تضار والدة بولدها والمولود له بولده. You cannot cause hard feelings or harm to the father or the mother by taking away their child from them. So this has to be, they both should be allowed access to the child in normal situations, if they are both Muslims and not fasiqs or kafirs and so on. And at the same time, the common sense should play a role here. That is, there are situations where visitation is not possible, so we need to agree that certain times of the day, certain weeks and so on, or certain days of the week, the father can come and see the child and so on, or he can take him out for a walk or something like that. No, they don't, and that's why I'm saying that this has to be written and agreed ahead of time by the judge or the imam, if there is a respected imam, that they both would take his word. Well, subhanAllah, that's the problem. I mean, in not many Muslim countries, even, not only here. I mean, that's why there are so many disputes and with the judges. But this is what has to be attempted first, that both of them agree on a certain person that will look into this case and evaluate it in a rational and fair way, and based on that would judge how many days and how many hours every week he can see the child, and what is the general circumstances that should judge such a visit, and so on. If he does what? She might, but again, I mean, this cannot be settled like this by her with him like that. I mean, like any other matter where there's, suppose for example in this non-Muslim country, suppose you have a problem with your neighbor. If he does something like throws garbage into your lawn, or throws stone into your window and so on, you can go and you can take it into your hand to enforce the law by, for example, saying, since he did this to me, I'm going to throw stones and break his windows as well, or do things like that. But in that case, this will not, in many cases, such cases, this will not solve the problem. It will get it worse. And then he will probably bring bigger stones, and then he will bring a machine gun and so on, and it will be a street war. So similarly between the mother and the father, I mean, if he does this, she does that in retaliation, then he does that, he will come at night, for example, and steal the children, or things like that. So if one of them does not fulfill his right, his part of the contract, then this has to be settled in a correct legal way. They go to a judge, to a Muslim imam or somebody like that, and they say she is not fulfilling her side, I'm fulfilling my side, or vice versa. So what should we do now? And then based on that, he will decide that he may decide that since he's not paying the alimony, then he loses his right, or as a punishment, not because this is the normal equal to that. That is, not paying the alimony is, or the alimony is paid so that he can see the children. Therefore, since he's not paying it, he cannot see it. Not because of that, but as a kind of punishment. That's unless he fulfills his right, or if he cannot afford it, then at least rights and provide certain commitment that he will pay it. Then otherwise he will be punished by not being able to see his children for a while, or something like that. What? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That in the Sharia, this is how it's supposed to be done. That if there is a dispute, has to be settled with a judge. They cannot, each one of them, make himself a judge, because how do you know what is behind it? I mean, maybe he does not give the alimony because every time he goes to see the children, she curses him and she gives him a hard time and so on, or something, So you cannot allow each one of the two parties to take the law upon himself to enforce the law, whether it is Islamic law or otherwise. It has to be done through the proper channels. Allahu Akbar. Yeah. No, that's something else. Suppose the mother is stealing, she is a robber, or suppose that she is begging, she goes and begs for money when she is actually getting some money, or whatever she's doing. It's not his business. I mean, he's supposed to be paying for her, and whether she gets some other money, or somebody gives her father gives her money, or whatever it is, then it's not any of his business to. He has a commitment or a responsibility towards his child, and whether somebody else wants to also pay to the child, like the financial aid or some other relatives or somebody, this doesn't drop his responsibility unless there's an agreement, like. For example, another brother says, I'll pay for him on his behalf, so we'd not have to require it from him. Or one of her relatives even say, okay, instead of you asking him, I'll pay for the support of the child. As I said, I mean, if somebody forgives or gives away, then that's another story. But in general, he is responsible for supporting his child, regardless of what is the situation of the woman, and whether she wants to forgive or not, that's another story. So, same thing. I mean, she can claim things like that, but it's unfortunate because in most places you cannot have the law applied properly, and in some cases it is permissible to recur to the force of the non-Muslim law to help to support these things. Like if she has proof, if she is truthful in that her ex-husband is a harassing person who can harm her and the child, there is nothing wrong. So there is no Islamic deterrent force to stop him. There is nothing wrong in her going to the police and saying that this person is harassing me and please stop him. He's coming to see the child once a week or such and such time, and whenever he comes he does such and such. So they can watch him and make sure that he doesn't do such things. But assuming that we are in a ideal situation where there is an Islamic rule applied and both of them are living under such a rule, then if she feels that the husband may be harmful to her or to the child, then she should go to the judge, similarly as we do in this country, or as people do in this country. She goes to the judge and explains the situation to him, and he probably will appoint certain people to guard or to watch during the times of visitations, or he may even decide that the father loses his right for visitation and that he shouldn't be told where the mother is, or things like that. But again, I mean, she cannot, based on her claims alone, you cannot make decisions. It has to be both-sided. Yeah, the right, I mean, both of them share the responsibility that the child has to be brought up in accordance with Islam. And if the father knows that the mother is not taking care of her responsibility in a proper way, like she's sending him to the non-Islamic schools, or she is exposing the child to TV programs which have a lot of damaging influence on children, or other things, letting him mix with certain people that would influence him in a bad way, then in that case, same thing, he has to prove this case, go to the judge or whoever decided about the custody and tell him that this is what's going on, and I don't allow my child to do that, and I'd like you to warn her either to stop doing that, or then I will take the child and I'll raise him in the proper Islamic way. So then in that case, if the judge or whoever is judging in their case decides that this is truly the case,